Hey, my name is Ryan Hildebrandt. I'm one of the co-founders of OpsKings. And on this video, I'm going to try to answer for you whether OpsKings is right for you, whether you should book a call, whether you should keep the call that you booked, and so on. So let's get right into it. So very high level, this is what we do. We help businesses with what we call process-led growth. So if your process is working and it just needs to be more efficient so you can take on more customers and grow your business, that is what we do. We do that through automation, through operations, and through like data and KPIs and dashboards and things like that. So that works. This is our high level process. We always start with a company brain, and what that is a process map of your entire business. That normally takes 1 to 2 Zoom calls either per department, or if you have a really small business, maybe 1 to 2 Zoom calls for the entire thing. Then we combine that all into and build what we call a source of truth. So this is dashboards for your team, for your clients, and for you, so you can see what the bottlenecks are in your process. That tells us then what the true bottlenecks are that actually do need some kind of change to solve. That change could be an automation. That change could be a new dashboard, or just simply displaying the same information in a different way to give people more insight into what to do next, or it could be operations. We have a playbook for that. Then we monitor how things are going in terms of your team, do documentation and change management. That cycles back into the process again, and the whole thing repeats. We do weekly calls for that. So that is what we do, because I know I don't want to waste your time. Get to that right away. If you're interested in more detail, I'm going to go into why we do it in this particular way. We do things in a little bit different way than almost everybody in the operations space or the automation space, and there's specific reasons why. So I want to go over that in this video here. So there we go. So we believe in creating testimonials. We think that's the best win-win. Why? So why would I work with somebody, or why would we work with somebody who is not going to get a great result, even if they have a budget to pay us, right? We want to create such great business growth for you that you're more than happy to hop on a video call and tell the world how your experience was with us and recommend us to other people, right? Because the only reason you would do that is if you got a great result. We want you to get a great result, not just implement a bunch of changes in your business. We want those changes to result in growth for you. We are not a cost-cutting exercise. If you come to us and say, I really want to save $200 a month from like this one little task from my VA in the Philippines, we're not for you. I think that's kind of a mediocre result. We would much rather do it kind of exactly what we've done with everybody here, which is 2x, 3x, 5x their business in the space of a relatively short time frame, maybe a year or so, simply because we increase their capacity to take on all the demand they already had. So that's a win for you, and it's also a win for us because we grow primarily through testimonials, through referrals, and just evidence to the world that we do what we say we can do. So we really only want to work with people that we know we can create great results for. That is not every single business. And I'm going to go over who that is in this video here. So what are the common denominators that allow us to create great results? What business types do we work with? Do we not work with? So let me go. Okay. So who is not a good fit for OpsKings? If you have, if you're struggling to get clients, we cannot help you. We don't do work with people that are struggling to get clients. Automation of your back end is not going to really help you if you don't have a great process, or your people don't trust you and things like that. So similarly, if you're a freelancer or a solo business owner, I know automation will eventually help you, but just not at the stage right now. If you're a solo business owner, the best advice I have for you is get more clients. Spend all your time getting more clients, and working on the process itself, right? So we primarily work with people that have at least a little bit of a team already. The third type of thing we don't do along that end is we don't do marketing automation, or we primarily don't do marketing automation. Sometimes we will do dashboards and things like that for sales teams and get into custom CRMs and things like that. But if you're looking for somebody to scrape leads for you or something like that, we probably don't do that. So yeah, if you're struggling to get leads in the door, you find that the market just doesn't respond to what you have to say, we're probably not a good fit for you. If you have ideas for what to automate, but if they don't work, it's not a huge deal. They're not really that important to you. Again, not a good fit. And we don't do SaaS, no-code SaaS stuff. We do have referral partners. So if you are looking for someone to do like outbound lead generation for you, or looking for somebody to do a SaaS product build for you, we do have referral partners that we can refer you to. If you let me know what you're looking for, I can point you in the right direction for that. So that's who we don't work with. So let's get into who we do work with. So perfect fit for OpsKings, service businesses, right? Really high ticket, intensive stuff, or like logistically intense stuff. So home services, real estate, UGC, SEO, like marketing agencies, logistics stuff. We've done like 3PL stuff as well. So the bottom line is, if you cannot scale as fast as you would like because maybe your process works, but it's just not as efficient as you would like it to be, you feel like there's data missing, or there's dashboards you really should have, or your process is like a little bit clunky in terms of how it works, then you're a great fit for us. You're probably, if that's the case, you're probably using tools like ClickUp or Google Sheets or Monday or Trello to manage things day to day. These tools at a certain point are great. Like when you're smaller, they are actually wonderful tools. But after a certain point, once you start to kind of stress them a little bit, they do slow people down. So if you're finding that, you're definitely not alone. And then the other positive signal is if you found really good progress with your business so far, but there's just like operational things and process things, automation things, could take it to the next level of growth. So we work with businesses and they're really aggressive. They're like, man, I know this business has potential. Oftentimes it's one of the first businesses they've grown to that level. So yeah, if these are you, then you're in the right place. So for those kind of people, right? So for these, there's two common problems that people generally seek, right? One is operations consultants, or doing operational changes, and the other one is doing automation. And we actually disagree with a lot of what each of these common people do separately. And we do have a philosophy. We do have two sides of our business. We have operations consulting and we have automation, and they do work together, not seamlessly, but they do work together. So I'm going to go over how we differ from operations people and how we differ from automation people, so you can understand our process more fully. So most operations people focus on documentation. Here's a system, but the format of the system is like a checklist or a review form, things like that, right? And so the problem is all these things reliant on people, either stuff that's in someone's brain, like a behavior that you've instilled into someone's head, or an instruction thing that's it's kind of separate from their day-to-day task, and it relies on them actually doing that thing. So if you create like the world's best SOP document, you're relying on somebody actually looking at the instructions. And the problem is no one likes to read user instructions anyway. And so all these problems or these implementations go away if a bunch of people on your team quit, or people just don't like to read instructions anyway. So they're fragile, and I think at best temporary. The answer that a lot of people seek once they understand this, and hopefully you're at that point, is they go automation. They're like, well, if I can just automate this task, then it avoids this kind of up and down fragility of human behavior. The automation works even if people are sick or hungover or tired or demotivated. And the thing is, we also disagree with much of what automation people do. So pure automation people that maybe know a little bit less about operations, what they do is they automate everything at once. They automate as much as possible, and they automate what the client, like you, asks to be automated. And I think these are all problematic for a various number of reasons, which I'm going to go into in a second. And the bottom line here is what all these lead to is a lot of technology, but relatively little business improvement. And we're actually trying to automate as little as possible, not as much as possible, and have a disproportionate amount of business value created for you, ideally with less automation. So constantly I'm questioning my team, going like, do we really have to automate this? Can we make something that's more minimalistic, start to build stuff for other departments in the business or whatever else, because it creates more value for the business and disproportionately less automation. So let's get into what we've learned and why this all actually is true. So we've done about 1,400 automations or so in the last 10 months, and because we count them. And there's a few things we've learned. The number one thing, or the first thing in no particular order, is that business processes, most of them can never be automated. So 99% of your business and the actual day-to-day time that's invested by you and your team will never be automatic. And so if you only focus on these like point solutions, like identifying the thing that you know how to automate or someone knows how to automate, you're never really going to create that much value. So if you automate everything you could think of, the relative improvement is going to be very small because the total amount of things you can automate is also very small. Okay, but you can still speed things up with technology in a reliable way, even if everything is done manually. And you can still measure things as well in a very reliable way, even if they're manual. So the thing we think about is an assembly line. And what we like to do is go into a business and identify the assembly lines or the manufacturing lines for that business and string them all together, build an operating system so that people can update the status of a landing page as it moves along this digital process. And the cool thing about this is you can measure it, and you can also replace individual steps with automatic ones, and everything works as normal. So that the thing to think about here, that the visualization for your head is just simply, where's my screen, and manufacturing the process. This is my background. I used to work in not a process like this, obviously, but candy manufacturing. And candy manufacturers somehow sell a chocolate bar for $1, and they still make billions of dollars a year. And they do it with a manufacturing process. So we like to go into a business and reshape things like that. What that allows us to do is create dashboards kind of like this, where we can see the total amount of time spent in various steps along the way, pick one of those steps and say, we're going to target this one and improve this one, and track the amount of time spent in any given key step over time, week by week, so we can see the improvement and also track the performance, not just for the step as a whole, but per team member. So we can make sure that we identify every single source of inefficiency in the business. Okay, this is dramatically different from taking a project-based approach where, it's like in ClickUp, for example, you have a bunch of tasks and subtasks, and there's lots of different things, but you can never really tell how long every single task took for a various number of reasons. Okay, so that's that. The next thing, or the next insight that we realized, is that you don't really want to automate as much as possible at once. Right? You actually want to break things up into very, very micro implementations, because when you improve one thing, it affects other things in the process. Okay, so the analogy here we like to use is that of dominoes. So what a lot of automation companies will do is they'll say, okay, let's go in and identify everything that we know that can be automated and like automate all of them. And the problem is, if you took a more microscopic approach and broke things into sprints, which is what we do, you could implement one fix, and then maybe the business scales and there's 3 new bottlenecks that appear that you didn't even spot before, or the offer changes and you did a priority shift and whatever else, or a team member quits and all of a sudden now you have to jump in and automate part of their job to make it easier for other people in the business to take on that role, or you implement one thing and 3 other things that you thought would be bottlenecks now just go away, right? So one thing affects the other. What we like to do is identify all the possibilities, fix one lead domino at a time, and then just see iteratively, week over week, what effects that has on the rest of the business, okay? So again, visualization, just think about dominoes. This is why we do 2-week sprints, followed by a 1-week implementation cycle, where we're actually looking at the process and saying, well, did this remove other bottlenecks downstream? Did it make other things worse? Did it change the priorities that we have for the next sprints? Okay. So the third thing is that people don't like to read instructions. They generally, if you're like me, you got like a new TV, for example, or a new computer, you read as much of the instructions as you need to get things started. And from that point forward, you're just trying to use the thing. So your team is no different. They want to try to produce work. That's what you hired them for. Hopefully that's what they like to do as well. So if you have a graphic designer like making, Figma designs for a landing page, and there's a whole, SOP they really should follow. They're going to read it one time until they understand it, and they're probably not going to reference it very much after that because it's separate from their day-to-day work. And so what we like to conceptualize this as is kind of like an app or a smartphone where, a smartphone doesn't have instructions, or I guess it does, but I don't know. The software tells the user what to do at a given stage. Okay. So conceptualize it like a smartphone. Your process will be very much the same. And it's going to goes back to the whole idea of the manufacturing process. So in a manufacturing process, every stage of the assembly line or every stage of the manufacturing process is done the exact same way. And so not only can you do things like in a manufacturing process, they put all the tools and materials that they need in that place, which is sort of an inherent SOP, but also everybody has a repetitive task. And so you can have very high output with relatively little checking of documentation because the SOP in many ways, or the instructions, is sort of built into the process itself. So we like to design software and dashboards where there's the buttons to press that they should press on at a given time are there, that are visible, and everything else is invisible. We'd like to have things like little checklists directly in the software. And all this takes advantage of the fact that your team wants to do a good job. And so because they want to do a good job, they don't want to waste their time checking external documentation in the same way you don't want to waste your time reading the instructions for your phone. Okay. So at the same time, that's not to say that everything should be automatic. There's lots of things that shouldn't be automatic. So for example, a client, updating a client on progress of like an ad campaign or a cold email campaign, the performance will go up and will go down because of seasonality and this and that. So you don't just want to send the data, and you could send the data automatically if you wanted to, but you shouldn't, because the quality and the output for your business will suffer because your client will get a bad experience. So there's lots of things where you could technically automate it. We like to do things like partial automation. We like to shift things away from being automated intentionally because we want a person to intervene and take it the last step. And so again, we have the automation side of the business. We have the operations side of the business. And it's not to say we're trying to transfer everything from operations to automation. We're also considering the fact that there's a yin and yang effect here. So the way we like to think about it is we're a toolkit of solutions for your business to improve your business, not just a hammer looking for a nail. Okay, so think about that. Every single problem in your business that's a sort of a process problem, it's not that it's always automation. It's not that it's always operations. It's probably some combination of both of them. So in summary, we got the sprint or the assembly line thing, the sprint thing, shifting things into the software from an ops perspective, shifting things back to ops or back to people, because the quality is much higher sometimes for people versus automation. So those are the main observations that we've learned after creating a bunch of testimonials just like this. And that's why we have a bunch of testimonials. That's why we have results for clients, not just a bunch of people that say, yeah, you implemented a lot of technology, but our business actually improved. And that's basically how our business model works, right? That's how we work with clients. We do ongoing relationships with clients because we believe in process-led growth. So I'm going to back up and explain this again so you get it. So the first thing is mapping a process. We create what's called a company brain. And so we want to make sure that everybody in your business has a common understanding about how that process works today, right? Everybody, some businesses we go into, every little team has their own little opinion about how things should work. We want to get a consolidated document that has everything there, that's very zoomed out, and that's a meeting with your department heads or maybe with you, the business owner, if your business is relatively small. Okay, so that's the first step. We capture how it works today and how it should work if there is a difference, how your process lines up with what we've learned from working with different businesses. The next thing we do is we make it go fast in manual mode. That's with a source of truth. We want to get the data in the right place so that your team can see what they need to do next and what's the next step, right? That's that SOP into the software we talked about. The other audience for that is the leadership team. So that's you seeing the bottlenecks in the process. Because once things are consolidated and everybody has this like a digital assembly line, oftentimes a lot of the bottlenecks go away. We want to know what the current bottlenecks are at any given time. And the third part is your client. So you, your client, and your team all need to know where things are at. So that's the second thing. That's this assembly line model that we talked about, okay? So that's KPIs and things like that, even in manual mode. And then what we start doing is improving things. We look at the actual bottlenecks, that graph that I showed you. We then pick a couple of those bottlenecks and say, okay, I think this one's a partial automation, partial operations change. We can fix this one with a little bit of a different, maybe it's an alert, maybe it's a report, something like that, a different client update. We watch to make sure that everybody understands. We have the documentation and the SOPs and things for how to use it. We make sure that everybody understands how to use it, what to do, and then the cycle repeats, and that is how this works. So that is OpsKings in a nutshell. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can see us on the call and ask those. You can send me an email. If it's not a fit for you and you're looking for something specific, send me an email, and what we can do is connect you with a referral partner, and they will get you sorted. But yeah, I think that is all for today. I will see you on a call, and have a good one.